what's Mac Jones' biggest issue? And I think there's a lot of different ways you can take this. We've talked a lot about the coaching over the years, and he's been set up to fail, and Bebop and Rocksteady, Patricia and Judge last year, Bill O'Brien, no great shakes this year, Bill Belichick, has he lost his fastball? Did he ever even have his fastball? So coaching's an option. The lack of weapons we've covered a million times. Does Mac have anything around him? His ability level we've talked about a lot too, and I really try to hammer this one home. He's not that talented. He rose up late in the draft process. He wasn't projected as a first-round pick. He was the 5th quarterback in his class. Typically, that's not a first-rounder. Never mind in the middle of the first round. Just the physical traits are not off the charts for Mac Jones. But where I would vote, and I'm curious to get your thoughts on it, is his attitude and his willingness to listen to the coaches, willingness to deal with what's around him, willingness to buy in. And I just don't see that out of Mac Jones. I don't. It's part of the reason I bought into the Zappy hype last year. And if I was wrong for it, then I'm wrong for it. But I saw a kid who bought in. I saw a kid who didn't care about what was around him. I saw a kid who listened to the coaches and didn't care that it was Patricia and Judge coaching him. I saw a kid that could get past the University of Alabama, which Mac references to Burt Breer earlier this year. He brought up the University of Alabama to us last week. It's a fraternity, and I'm constantly talking to players from Alabama. Mac can't get past it. He had good coaching at Alabama. He had elite talent at Alabama.
He's like my friend Bethany, who always talks about high school and like senior year being the greatest ever.
He can't get past it. He's still stuck in senior year. That's Bethany or senior year, exactly.
We ruled this school.
He can't get past it. And so to me,
Bama.
That attitude is getting in Mac Jones's way. And it's definitely on the list for me. I'm putting it at the top of the list because he's starting to take shots at the players on the team. He's starting to take shots at the coaches. It was after the game last week. It continued today. We're going to play you some of it. It's starting to bother me more and more. So I'd vote attitude. How would you vote, Mego?
To be honest, I think all 4 of the options are reasonable. Like, there's not really one that jumps out at me at this point in the Mac Jones experience where I go, nah, throw that out. Like, if you think that, you're ridiculous. I can see it from every angle. And from someone who started out this season saying, I'm not going to be the person sitting here saying Mac Jones needs weapons now after I spent all last season saying Mac Jones needs a real coach. I don't think any of his experience has been exactly right. But that brings me to his ability. And I got to question the ability at this point because when we were sold on him as a draft pick, if you were trying to buy in to what the next quarterback was going to be, and at least the first 2/3 or first half of his rookie year was, man, this guy is smart as hell. Man, this guy can really process quickly. Man, if he's put in the right scheme, what he's going to do to defenses, oh, it's going to be so overwhelming, his brain power. He's a genius out there. And I thought that under Bill O'Brien, he would not only have the flexibility, but he would have the empowerment to diagnose things at the line of scrimmage and make things happen and elevate the guys around him. What I've seen now is a complete lack of composure under pressure. And that leads to him being panicky. And then when things aren't clicking along, there's an antsy nature to the way that he plays that gets him into trouble. And it gets to the point where you look at him and you go, can he read the defense under pressure? And that isn't even getting to the arm strength or his scrambling ability, his speed, any of this other stuff, which he was knocked about forever. His natural athletic ability, and I think he's probably a fine athlete baseline. But it's this other stuff that I was sold on that he hasn't fulfilled, and if anything, he's regressed in those departments that makes me sit here and go, it's time to talk about the ability.
So what's Mac Jones' biggest issue? Mego says his limited ability. I think the attitude is skyrocketing up the list to the top of the list for me. Poor coaching is an issue. The weapons around him are an issue. It's our big Q at 2. You can vote at Jones and Mego. You can dial us up on it, 617-779-7937. Arcam, what's his biggest issue?
My biggest issue, I think, for him is weapons, and I put coaching a very, very close second. I'd say that's right behind it. I agree with you guys that his attitude hasn't been great the last year and a half, and his ability maybe is declining a little bit, but I don't think either of those things are terrible. The coaching and the weapons have been terrible, especially this past year and last year. The coaching last year was horrific, and the weapons, I think, have just gotten worse over time. He's never had a real number one receiver. He's never had a wide receiver who would be a number one on any other good team in the league. Even his best tight end, Hunter Henry, was never really all that great with the Chargers. I know we always talk about Jonnu Smith and how he's been better now, but he's not even the number one on his team, on his new team in Atlanta. He is putting up some numbers there, but it's not like he's some superstar. And he's had a mostly crappy O-line, too. So I feel like his bad attitude is a product of frustration, and I feel like he's right to be frustrated. So I put those things ahead of attitude and ability, which I don't think is great, but it's certainly better than the coaching and the weapons.
So I want to play you a few clips from Mac coming up. He met with the media today, and I think it illustrates his poor attitude. But he also was asked about the growth that he made or has made this year. Well, the team's only 2-7, but what about your own personal growth? I believe these were Roachy questions, which very much on brand for Dan Roach. But here's what Mac Jones had to say about the growth he's made since entering the league.
How much room do you have to grow? You know what I mean? You've been doing this a while now. You just said there's always things you're looking to get better at.
Yeah.
When you look at it, how much does it excite you? And
Yeah.
you continue to grow and be where you want to be as an NFL quarterback.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a great way to look at it. I mean, everyone wants to look at it negatively, but when maybe you're not playing as well as you can. But honestly, I'm going to look at it as a positive. And what can I get better at? What are my weaknesses? Where do I need to improve? And it's not going to happen overnight. I've said that before up here. I got a lot of stuff to work on, and every week I'm going to work on something and try and just close the gap on that, and get rid of some bad habits that maybe I formed or things like that. It's in sports that happens, right? You might form a bad habit, but it might take a couple weeks, months, years to fix, and the really good ones can fix it quickly and stay on top of it.
Do you see signs of it?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like I said, working on it. Identifying is part of the thing, and then taking action is the next step. So definitely want to improve on certain things, and in season sometimes that's hard, but at the same time you got to figure out how to keep this thing rolling.
Okay, I'm blown away by that answer. He's like, it's not going to happen overnight. It's year 3. It's year 3. So like, if you're not figuring it out right now, that says a lot about what you can do and what you can't do. He also talks about the really good ones fixing it quickly. So what does that say about you?
So he's like incriminating himself.
Right. If the really good ones fix it quickly and you're saying it won't happen overnight.
Me, I got to work on it.
I need a lot of time.
Fix it quickly and stay on top of it.
That's unbelievable. So the good ones can do that. You can't. So what are you saying? What are you saying? And I know that's not what he means, but my God, I heard that and I was like, okay, this is what we're talking about. So there's a lot of issues facing Mac Jones. Some of it are his issues, his talent level, his attitude. Some of it is external, the coaching, the players around him. What is Mac Jones's biggest issue? Before I went to Arcan, you wanted to say something, Mego, I thought.
Oh, I wanted to say this from the text line, because it's something that, since you see Brock Purdy's performance over the last season and a half or whatever it's been, imagine if San Francisco picked Mac instead of the biggest mistake they did, which you think is Trey Lance. Well, that's the thing with Mac. And Jones, you're right about this. Like, this take, if any of your takes, has just continued to age well. If everything was right around Mac, the way that everything is mostly right around Brock Purdy, then he would be on a team that looks like San Francisco. But at that rate, it's like, okay, then it's not even talking about having a high floor guy. It's just about having a competent quarterback out there. And when you put together a roster like this, you can't just put a maybe competent quarterback out there.
Right. And do you realize how insulting it is to compare him to the last pick of the draft? This was a first-round pick. Was he the Heisman runner-up? I forget. Like, this is a guy who was supposed to be a difference maker. And you're like, well, look at Brock Purdy. That's such an insult, either to Mac Jones or just tells you everything you need to know about Mac Jones. Oh, so you're comparing him to the last pick of the draft? You can just find a guy like this anywhere? That is an insult to his talent level, or it's an accurate representation of his talent level, and we overrated it.
Yes, if Mac has the weapons, and Mac has a good enough offensive line, and Mac has good coaching, then he's going to have a performance that is top 15, top 12 in the league. Okay, like, what quarterback who isn't a walking interception or disaster wouldn't be good in that situation?
Well, he has none of those things. He doesn't have one of those 3 things.
I know.
What quarterback who has none of those things but puts up good numbers?
I know, but the defense of him is, well, he could go do what Brock Purdy does in San Francisco, which is like, great. Okay, fine. So he's not even a top 10 quarterback with everything.
Here's what gets me, Arcan, because I've been on the other side of this for a very long time, and I'm wondering what you think, is What is so different about the team right now compared to the team in 2021 on offense?
I think Josh McDaniels is a big part of it. Jacoby Myers is a part of it too, and I think all in all, you had a bunch of new guys come in, and you spend money and sort of invested in it. They weren't all that good, but it seemed like they were pushing towards
maybe
something.
some of it is the buy-in and the attitude that is that buy-in. Some of it is the buy-in that guys are coming in, like you said, free
We were
agents
all thinking it,
who
yeah.
just got paid and they don't know what the season's going to be, and it starts going well and they like it. But I listen to it and I'm like, Josh McDaniels, like he just flamed out on his second head coaching job, and then Jacoby Myers, God bless him, I love him. Like Jacoby Myers is not Randy Moss, so we're not talking about the situation like down in Miami, where again, like if Mac was in Miami for the past couple of years, he probably would be a top 12, top 15 quarterback. I do feel that way.
Yeah.
But that's being a professional quarterback.
Yeah, and that's not the goal for me. I would aim much higher. So again, you can vote. It's our big Q at 2. We start every show with it. Our big question of the day. What's Mac Jones' biggest issue? You tell us. 617-779-7937. Is it poor coaching? Is it the weapons around him? Is it his limited ability, which I feel like he just kind of hinted at? Or is it his poor attitude? I say
It's plenty
attitude.
enough.
Mego says it's the ability. Arcan is arguing for the weapons. You can argue and vote in our show poll at Jones and Mego.